So Assalamualaikum to Dr. Sufiza. So today in Lab 4 we are going to do association rules, analytical models using the groceries list tree data set. So what I have is the grocery list data set that I've downloaded from Brighton. So as you can see here, all of the item is actually in one column. So I want to separate it into their own personal column. I'm going to use Excel instead of RapidMiner, and I will explain it to you later why I use Excel instead of RapidMiner. So in the data tab, I go to text to column and then next, and then semicolon and then next. So this is the final item, the final data set, how it look like. I won't save it because I've already done it. I'm going to show it to you. So here is the item that I've added before. I name it as grocery list 3.1. So this is the plan process that I've saved as Lab 4 Groceries Association Rules under the BA Lab session folder. The first operator I'm going to use is the read CSV operator, since we want to import the file just now. So we are going to import the grocery list 3.1 file, the file that we edited just now. There is no problem. So next, so this one I'm going to change it as ATT1, so it is easier for me when I use the generate attribute operator. Finish. Then I'm going to run. So here is the data that we import just now, and then I'm going to use the store operator because I want to store it locally, so it is easier for us to retrieve. I'm going to name it as Lab 4 Groceries 3.1 data set, and then save, and then run. It's just the same thing because we haven't done anything. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to generate ID. So the ID here is going to act as a transaction. So this is the item in transaction 1. So this is item in transaction 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 until 63. So before I start showing you how I clean the data, I'm going to show you why I didn't use RapidMiner to split the data just now. So here I have another file that I save as Lab 4 Groceries Association Rule Testing. So first I'm going to use the read CSV operator to import the original data. So this is the original data. So as you can see here, only the first item in the column shows, so we can't use semicolon as a column separator. We need to use tab for all of the item to show. Next, no problem, next, and then we run. So the item has been imported, and then we are going to use the same thing, same operator, generate ID, run. So this is transaction 1, item set, transaction 2, 3, and so on until 63. So now we want to split it into their own personal column, so we're going to use the split operator. So we only want to split the item description, so the attribute filter type will be single, and then the split pattern, I use the punctuation character. So if we preview here, so the highlight semicolon will be missing once we run it. It's just the same thing if I change it to semicolon, because we just want to remove the semicolon. So when and the split mode is order split. So all of the item has been separate in their own column. So this is for item description 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So as you can see here, we have missing value. So my first thought is that we need to use the replace missing value operator before we change it to nominal to binomial. So all, the attribute filter type is all. So the default, we can't use 0 because all of the missing value is actually in the nominal column. All of it is nominal type, so we can't use 0. So the only thing that we can use is value. So value, I think I name it as false, and then I run. Okay, so every missing value has been replaced by false. Okay, So then I want to separate the baking powder, beef, berries, candies, eggs into their own column. So I use generate attribute. But the problem is here, as you can see, once I did it, the only attributes they show is 1, 2, 3, where here we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I can't really do anything. And even if I run this one, I run, the baking powder column show up. But then if you look here, this one's supposed to be 1 because this item description 2 have baking powder. They purchase baking powder, but then it is 0. Okay, so I can't use it. Replace missing value also no. Then I decided to change to unordered split. When I change it to unordered split, it looks fine at first glance because you don't need to use the nominal to binomial to change the type. But then when I go to statistic, there is a duplicate data, like 2 baking powder, and then we have another baking powder. We have 3 baking powder. So then I think I need to use the select attribute to remove it. And when I want to use the select attribute, it's just the same thing. The only attribute that shows is the ID. So yeah, that's why I don't use RapidMiner to separate the value. Okay, so that's all. Going back to our original data, so we did just now until generate, run again. We did just now until generate ID. The next thing I'm going to do is set role. Actually, I don't need to use set role because here, as you can see, one special attribute, the ID have been highlighted, but I'm just going to put it there. So I'm going to, and the attribute name ID is going to, the target row is going to be ID, and then run. Okay, and then I'm going to use the replace operator. So the replace operator is actually for the buttermilk, because when I look at the data, I saw that in attribute 4, in attribute 4, here it's just the same item, but the spelling is different. So I'm just going to make it into one spelling. That's why I use the replace operator. So from buttermilk to buttermilk, butter space milk. So if you can see, wait, attribute 4 here, buttermilk. So when we run, it's going to be, attribute 4, it's going to be here, buttermilk, separate. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to use is generate attribute. So generate attribute, I'm going to separate all of it, baking powder to their own column, beef to their own column, berries to their own column, candies, eggs, chicken, and so on. So I'm going to use the generate attribute operator. So here I've already create the column, all of the data set, and how the RapidMiner know is that if like attribute 1 there is a baking powder word in it, it's going to place it as 1, attribute 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. If there is no baking powder, then it's going to be 0. So apply, and one more thing, if you can see here, there is chicken 1 and there is chicken 2. Why? Because here, where is it? cream cheese, chocolate, here, sorry, attribute 5 and 6, the transaction bought 2 chicken, so that's why I have chicken 1 and chicken 2. So in the chicken 2 is specially for attribute 6, so as if attribute 6 have chicken, then it's going to be 1, if not it's going to be 0. So, and then I apply, and then I run. So if I run, let's compare just one. If you can see here, every transaction that have baking powder is going to be 1, and then if they don't, it's going to be 0. So I'm going to show it side by side so you can see it better. Baking powder, I'm going to put it here. Okay, so look, baking powder 1, 1, 1, 1. This 1 is because attribute 2 have baking powder, so this is why it is 1. And then if they don't purchase baking powder, it's going to be 0, and then 1 here baking powder, and then 1 here baking powder. Okay, so that's how that's why I use the generate attribute operator. So after we do it, we have this one, so we don't need this attribute 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we are going to remove it. So to remove it, we are going to use the select attribute to remove the attribute 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I choose select, the filter type is subset, sorry, and then attribute 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then apply, invert selection, and then run. So here we have, so for transaction 1, we can compare it. Here I have from the Excel file, they bought baking powder, beef, berries, candy, and eggs, and chicken. So chicken here, chicken. Okay, so that's all. Oh yeah, lastly I have numerical to binomial, because when we want to do association rules, we need to change everything numerical, because every data type is numerical. We need to change it to binomial all. So run, and then yeah, if they buy it, it's going to be true. If they don't buy it, it's going to be false.
Okay, so after Ain has cleaned the data and also changed the numerical to binomial, and now I'm going to proceed with the association rules. First of all, we need to use the FP growth operator. We drag it into the process panel. So as for the FP growth operator, at the parameter, we just leave it as default at the input format, and the minimum requirement is to calculate the frequency, so we set it as support. And for the minimum support, we will put it as 0.25. Minimum items per set, it's going to be 2, and maximum items we're going to put it as 5. So we going to we connect the free and this spot first, and then we're going to run it. So as you can see here, this is the size that we set just now, the support. The minimum is 2. So when we scroll down, we have 3 and also 4 and 5 here. Okay, so after that, after we have set the we insert the FP growth operator. Next, we're going to use the create association rule. Create association rules, and we drag it into this process panel. I'm going to connect frequency to the input part of create association rule, and we're going to connect the other part. Okay, for the create association rule parameter, we look at here the criteria, and we're going to choose confidence, and the minimum confidence we're going to put 0.25 also, as mentioned in the PDF lab for assignment. Okay, so after we have set it to the 0.25, we're going to run it again, and so here we get the same as just now. But as we look at here the association rules, this is the data that we got, and let's look at the graph. Okay, so as for example, I choose rule 23. Okay, let's see. As for the rule 23, it means that 6% of the time, people who buy beef and baking powder will also buy berries. And we look at rule 106, the 6% of the time, people who buy berries and candy will also buy baking powder. Same goes to the other. For example, like rule 99 here, 6% of the time, when people buy cleaner and baking powder, they will also buy coffee. Okay, so that is how we connect what the association rules. So here is the description. So if we want to change, so that's all for association rules. Thank you.